Good evening, Rovers fans, and welcome to another post-match live stream from Rovers Chat with me, Ryan Hildred. Rovers disappointingly losing 2-0 away at Swansea City this afternoon to give us our trick on Halloween night. However, let's take the positives. This post-match stream is going to be better than listening to the Prime Minister announce lockdown 2. So as sad as you're all feeling, come and join the four of us to chat all things Swansea City versus Blackburn Rovers. So we welcome another debutant today, Luke Kimberley. Nice to have you on, mate. How are you doing?
Absolutely great. Yeah, it's good to be nice to be involved. Could have been better circumstances, couldn't it?
Indeed, indeed. Joe, Rovers Analytics, how are you, mate?
Yeah, not so bad. Trying to keep positive.
Well, we'll try. We will try. And Jacob Ward, welcome back, mate.
Hiya, good to be here.
Good stuff. Thanks, Jacob. Rovers fans listening in, as ever, please hit us with your comments in the chat and we will pick them up through the show. Anything that any of us raise or anything you picked out from the game, hit us with your comments and we will address them through the show. If you're not following us on Twitter, please, of course, follow us, Rovers_chat, and subscribe to our YouTube channel, Rovers Chat, to keep up to date with all of our content. Before we make a start, however, just another message to our sponsors, 6yardsout.com.
The Rovers Chat YouTube channel is proudly sponsored by 6yardsout.com. They've got retro football from every era with mugs, phone cases and much more. They also have plenty of Rovers goods, including apparel with the famous 94-95 season and this season's kit. Check them out using the link in the description below.
Thanks once again to 6yardsout.com. So Luke, I'm going to start with you as our debutant today. Disappointing day at the office once again for Rovers. That's 4 defeats in 5 now, which we can't get away from. Was it a fair result today? And depending on your just a few sentences, why it was or wasn't?
Yeah, it's fair. Yeah, you can't argue with that, can you? Really, didn't really dominate the game as such. I mean, you can look at the stats. We had more possession, but we didn't really create enough, I think, to get anything out of that game. And, you know, mistakes cost us at the end of the day.
Yeah, indeed. And Jacob, where are you? Was it a fair result? A few sentences, why or why not?
I don't think it was a fair result. You look at the statistics again, come up against the side, they have 3 shots on target, they score 2. It's the exact opposite of what we're doing right now. We're just not clinical at all. 4 shots on target, one of them from Joe Rankin Costello. He has to be putting that in. It can't be going straight at the keeper. A couple shots from Armstrong in the first half, but didn't really test the keeper. Just not good enough. And I said it in the pre-match, we need to be more ruthless and clinical. And I can't believe the fact I'm saying that when we've had 2 4-0s and a 5-0 this season. But we just... Even in those games, we should have had way more than we did. That's the thing. It's just we're not taking our chances and we're coming up against teams that, like Swansea today, 3 shots on target, score 2, game over.
Sure. And Joe, was it a fair result for you? What are your thoughts?
Yeah, I think it's a fair result, isn't it? They came with a plan, or a plan like every other team comes with a plan, and they executed it, and I'm sure they'll walk away fairly happy with how they've, managed to come out of the game. I mean, they'll have worked on attacking set pieces. They've scored an attacking set piece. They'll have worked on defending with 11 men in your own half because they know that we throw men forward when we're losing. They'll have worked on these things, and they will have definitely worked on crossing the ball into the box as they have for the second goal. They've targeted the fullbacks. They've done everything that a team needs to do to try and beat Blackburn Rovers. So I think, yeah, it's a fair result from the stats side of things. We have more possession, more shots, but like you say, it's about conversion, and it can be as fancy and as flicky and as possession-y as you want, can't it? But until you're putting the ball in the back of the net and you're consistently picking up points, you're not the best team. So, yes, a fair result. We deserve to lose.
Yeah. And I think I agree with you all on that. It felt like a fair result to me. It felt like Swansea had us at arm's length for quite a lot of that game. I think, yes, we did start the game well. Armstrong scores his chance. Maybe it's a different game. And yes, we've had a couple of other Armstrong chances as well. But never felt like Swansea was sweating. It felt like they were happy for us to have the ball at times. Never felt like they were breaking a sweat. It just felt like, particularly second half, we were doing a lot of huffing and puffing, and really Swansea didn't have to do that much to contain us. And the first goal's a real disappointment, which I'm sure we'll come on to in a moment. But they're big moments that decide games. Two centre halves going against each other. So if we start on a little bit of a positive, Luke, I'll come back to you. Can you pick out anyone who's played well today and just just give us some thoughts?
I'm gonna start with Joe Rankin Costello. I've been a massive fan of him since he's come through the youth setup. Since he's been you could call him an integral part of our team. His versatility, sits in well whenever he's called upon. Really is a a forward attacking player. He's looked good in attacking positions, but mostly for Mowbray in the first team, he's filled in at sort of fullback positions. He got hammered midweek, and today he looked really good going forward, putting another couple of dangerous balls. I thought he didn't do much wrong defensively, and I think he's a good outlet. I think we will miss him when other players are back, because I don't think he's going to be a player that walks into that 11. I think he's a player that's going to be called upon in terms of his versatility to sit in for Mowbray and do a job. It's one of them for me. I'm looking forward to other players coming back, but on the flip side, Joe Rankin Costello's not a player that I want to miss out, because I think we will miss him dearly.
Yeah, and I think when you consider a lad of 20, 21 years old who doesn't have that many championship appearances, actually filling in a position which is probably going to be his 5th, 6th, 7th choice position that he would play on a football pitch, I think he's acquitted himself really well today as well, Luke. And I think when you look at someone like Elliot Bennett and that versatile player that Mowbray likes to have in a side and be able to move around, I think Mowbray's found his successor to that throne, hasn't he, in Rankin Costello? And I just hope he can find the right position for him, because I think raw talent-wise, Rankin Costello has got a lot in his locker, and I think Rovers are a better side with him in it. Jacob, anyone stand out for you today?
From the starting 11, no. The only one I can agree with is with Luke, with Joe Rankin Costello. But everyone else was average or below average, bar him. And to say, like got mentioned, at left back, a right footer, he did play really well today. He didn't do any defensive mistakes like he did on Tuesday, and I gave him a proper bashing on Tuesday. But he really proved himself today, even at left back. He did really well, I thought, despite the shot that he should have put on either side of the keeper and really should have took a lot better. He didn't have any pressure on him, but other than that, he did play really well today. Other than that, with the substitutes, maybe say Tyrese Dolan. I felt like he had a bit of an impact when he came off the bench, a little bit of a spark we needed. Little more tricks to his game. I like that. And he weren't every single time he got the ball just doing a trick. What sometimes he were doing in the wrong positions and wrong times from when we saw him previously. I do think he were doing it at the right times and passing at the right times. And he definitely offered a lot more than, say, Sam Gallagher, who came on today.
Sure. And Joe, is there anyone else you want to pick out from today who had a good game?
Yeah, I think Harvey Elliott would definitely come above the average or below average category. 4th game in a row where I think he's been the best, if not the second best player on the pitch for either team. He has an incredible touch, and I really liked him through the middle. Lovely ball for Armstrong in the second half, which went slightly wide, and that was one of our shots on target, actually. Just an all-round good player, and always looks threatening on the ball, provides in several positions, and yeah, I think he was impressive today, despite the defeat. And I don't think it would be right to say that he was average or below average. I was a big fan of Joe Rankin Costello on Tuesday. I think it was unfair, some of the criticisms he received. And I think tonight, I think that faith's been restored slightly. I mean, if that header goes in the first half, I think he'd be getting all the praise, wouldn't he, for a week to come? You know, and in a different game, it would have gone in. And for your left back, who's not really a left back, to have two really strong efforts on goal and create some nice chances and get some balls into the box, to basically be your biggest goal threat from left back, it's an impressive game. And I think as much as he's definitely got some defensive things to work on, I agree with Luke completely that losing him would be disappointing from the starting 11. So yeah, Harvey Elliott, Joe Rankin Costello, I think they can both be pretty happy with themselves.
Yeah, I'd agree with Harvey Elliott. I think that's for 90 minutes, as you say. What we know now is that this is a very special player, 17 years old, to be wanting that ball, making himself available for that ball, wanting to make stuff happen, and just looking like Rovers' standout attacking outlet on the pitch. That says a lot, doesn't it? So I just hope that in some respects we don't over-rely on that too much, and we're not asking too much of a 17-year-old. There will be a dip at some point, I am sure. So hopefully others can start contributing in that sense. Luke, I'm just going to flip tact if I can then. Anyone that didn't have a good game today, and just why do you think the reasons for that were?
I don't want him to get hammered on here. He's been an ever reliable member of our team, particularly in the League One season. But again, I just wasn't impressed with Dara today. For the first goal, he's got a challenge for that header. He's got to be more present. I just can't find many positives really. The second goal as well, he sort of does some weird star jump. Tries to make himself big and ends up just looking like a bit of a Burke really. So, I mean, what do you say? It's moving on from Tuesday, where it's just no real positive change on that front. So I don't want him to get hammered on here, but it wasn't any better than Tuesday for me.
No, well, I think we can criticise Lenihan actually without hammering him. I think if you're a side that are actually insistent and pretty confident that you're going to make the top six, and that's what your manager and your squad are telling you, I just ask you all on this panel, if that's Jake Cooper or Sean Morrison going for that header with Cabango from that corner, does that go in? Probably not. They've probably muscled him away and there's no goal. You need your centre-half to be a lot, stronger there, firmer, get that challenge in. And that's where I just don't think Lenihan did enough. He was bullied by Cabango, who, yes, is a big boy, but as a centre-half, you've got to be getting that away, haven't you, Luke?
Yeah, you want more from your skipper, don't you? And I mean, you've brought up Cabango, Guay as well, the two big boys, and we're watching the commentary on the iFollow from our side. You're listening to the commentators, talking about them being sluggish and being this and being that. For me, we're crying out for a player like that, someone who, a big boy that's going to bully strikers and is going to quash them sort of attacks and be ever present in the air as well. We were crying out for that today and we didn't get it.
Yeah. Jacob, was there anyone else who you feel didn't have a good game today, or is it Lenihan that you want to focus on?
I think you already know the answer to that question. I think, as Kieran said in the comments, it's going to have to be another Corey Evans bashing. I mean, can anyone tell me what he's done this season positive, please?
It was better than Tribal Rugby today, in my opinion. I don't get it. I thought he was all right. I don't understand it personally.
I was making notes during the game, and there was more than a couple of times where he passes the ball and just gets intercepted because it's a nothing pass. I mean, he offered nothing offensively again. I just don't understand why he's playing in that position. And I think, like keeps being said, he's just a passenger, in my opinion. Just doesn't fit the system at all. And I mean, for the shot he had, I think in that position he should be doing better as well. But I don't know. I'm just lost with Corey Evans. I honestly, I can't remember last time. The last time he had a good game was last season before he got injured, and then since then he just banged average.
I think Corey Evans is certainly one of those players that is dividing the fan base at the moment. Rovers fans, let us know what you think of Corey Evans in the chat box. If I consider Corey Evans, he's one of our longest serving players now. He's had a very successful international career with Northern Ireland that we've possibly not seen to that level in our Rovers side. I think he is a victim of the system at the moment, however. I look at Tribal, Holtby and Evans, and I think the three of them are just too similar. And I said it on the pre-match. I don't know what it is about Holtby when he's got Evans and Tribal alongside him. He just doesn't want to seem to go forward, and I don't know why that is. Whether Evans is nicking his space, I don't know, but Holtby's not as an attacking threat when Evans is in that side. I think that's unfair on Evans to single him out for the reason for that is I just think the three of them tactically are not working together. I think Tribal, Holtby and Evans have all equally had probably pretty poor games today. Tribal's a neat and tidy player. Holtby's a neat and tidy player, and Tribal and Holtby link up well. I think Evans has performed as well as those other two today, certainly. Joe, I'm going to come on to you. Anyone who you felt didn't have a good game today?
I was fairly unimpressed with a few, obviously, and that's to be expected when you've lost a game. And I don't think anybody was particularly terrible. I think Lenihan's got to do better with the first. I think Pears has got a long way to go in terms of dominating that area of the pitch, and I think we'll be happy to have Kaminski back. I wasn't particularly impressed with Ryan Nyambe. Yes, he was up against one of the best wingers in the division, or forward players, should we say, in IU, but I don't think he did particularly well defensively. And I think Adam Armstrong at some point does have to receive a little bit of criticism. I know he's the main man and I know he scores some goals, but he had three, didn't he? Three that probably should have gone in today. Well, we say probably should have gone in. If Ben Brereton has them, you're not expecting them to go in, but it's Adam Armstrong, you've got to score them. There's the one where the keeper jumps funnily and you're thinking go under or over him, not at him. And then there's the two from the outside of the box. So, yeah, Armstrong, Nyambe, Pears, Lenihan, I don't think they'll walk away particularly buzzing with the way they've played.
Yeah, I must say Nyambe surprised me today. He's someone who I was happy to see back on the team sheet, particularly as we're needing to obviously move people around. I was really surprised with his lack of attacking intent today, actually. I can't remember him really in the Swansea half as an attacking force, whether he's carrying a slight knock, whether he's got a bit of, match sharpness that's missing. I don't know. He just didn't seem to go forward, and that's not the Nyambe that we know and love. So, yeah, he surprised me as well. We've had quite a few comments I'm just going to try and pick on in here. Just on Corey Evans, as we expected, it is dividing and probably annoying the fan base at the moment. So Sean Fox, Evans is a ghost. Roy Chowdhury, 86. The only positive Evans has done this season is to be fit for Northern Ireland games. Sean Fox again. I'd rather see Davenport or Elliott start in place of Evans in that midfield three. T Mason 86. Corey just doesn't fit this system. Okay in the 4-2-3-1 system as a defensive holder, but terrible in a 3. Martin MJ 22. Evans has been so poor this season and seems to be making other people like Holtby play worse. Wayne Redfern. Corey Evans only playing because Johnson is out. Daniel Woods. Evans should not be in the squad come Tuesday. It doesn't work. Alexander Haben. Evans can be useful, but he needs to play as the link between defence and midfield, no further forward. And then just an interesting one from Andy Watson, just at the bottom. Tribal getting away with it a little bit, in my opinion. Looks to be another sideways and backwards merchant. Luke, is that something that you would share? Just reflecting on some of my comments as well about the fact that Tribal, Holtby and Evans are similar and have been playing similar when together. Do you share Andy's view there about Tribal?
Yeah, again, I wouldn't go too hard in on Tribal. Like you say, I think they're just three similar players, and I think that's where it's going wrong. And I don't think... I'm probably siding with you on this. I don't think any of the three were particularly bad. I think what they do, though, is just recycle the ball and don't really do anything with it. I like one of the points there about Ivy Elliott sitting in that midfield. Maybe play a 2 with a 1 in front, have more of an attacking triangle. Because going back to what Jacob said as well with Tyrese coming on, I actually thought that Ivy Elliott and Tyrese Dolan linked up really well. they seemed to have a bit of an understanding. They were that bit of tick-attack, one-touch football with them two in the left sort of attacking third. Yeah, too hard in on Tribal, really. Too hard in on Evans, I think. What we're really looking at there is a system, a fault of the system, not particularly a fault of the player. That's my opinion on it.
And Joe, just to so that we're not too hard on Evans, anything else on Corey Evans that you want to discuss or raise before we move on?
Well, it depends what you're expecting from him. I mean, Corey Evans has been here since, I think it's 2013. Correct me if I'm wrong.
I think it was then, yeah.
I think it was, yeah. I mean, obviously, he scored a goal on his debut, didn't he? A fluke, but a really good goal, I guess. And everyone's thinking, oh my God. But, you know, we've known Corey Evans for the best part of a decade. He's never been an attacking player. He's never scored goals. He's never created chances. It's not what he is. And I think he's playing in a position where people are thinking, well, he needs to be more involved attacking. But that's unfair. That's not what he's ever been good at. You know, he's being played in a position that doesn't suit him. That's a fault of the system, the tactics. You know, that comment there, Evans has no identity with us playing this style. Yeah, I get that. The formation is definitely a huge factor, 100%. But I disagree with the idea that he can't receive the ball and turn. And I almost feel like getting together a compilation tomorrow for the Rose Analytics account, where I'll show plenty of times where Corey Evans gets his foot on the ball and turns around. I think people are taking some prejudices into games about Corey. He's never been an attacker. It's not what he is. Yes, he's got into the box and he's got some fluky shot with his left foot, but anybody expecting Corey Evans to score there is probably being hopeful rather than realistic about what Corey Evans can actually achieve. The main issue that I would have with him is that he's being played out of position, which isn't a Corey Evans problem, it's a Tony Mowbray problem. But it's a problem he can't fix when Johnson's out and Travis is out and Rothwell's out and Dak's out, and you know your spine of your midfield isn't there. So it's not Evans's fault, and it's not really Mowbray's fault because he's got to work with what he's got. So at the end of the day, I think we've got to live with it and potentially change the system itself to suit the players that we have got to work with.
Yeah. I think it's clear that Corey Evans is going to be a player that will continue to divide opinion, particularly when we are missing some of our bigger players in Lewis Travis and Bradley Dack that potentially contribute, 2 players worth of positivity into our side. So I'm sure Corey Evans will be a feature on these pre and post match streams for a few weeks to come. But I will move us on. Jacob, I just want to come to you first for your biggest talking point of the game today.
I think, like I've already mentioned, just not being clinical enough. It was frustrating, really frustrating. The fact that we're coming up against teams over and over again that are taking their chances and punishing us every single time. It seems like at the moment, and we're just doing the exact opposite, and it's so annoying. And we need to get out of it, else we're not going to be getting points this season on the board, and especially against the higher quality sides. And those are the sides that are beating us. Any team we've come up against this season who are average or above average, we've lost to. And I don't think that's a coincidence, because every single time we're coming up against these teams, they're taking their chances and putting them away, even with less possession, and we're not. And again today, we had more of the ball, we had more chances, and we've lost again. And like the preview we had last week, where when we have more of the ball, we just don't win. It's simple as that. And we need to learn how to break down teams, because every single time we're coming up against teams, they're setting up in banks of 4, and we just look lost. For the last 15 minutes of that game, we were 2-0 down. And it was pissing me off so much, the amount of times we just kept recycling the ball. Every single time we were just going backwards. I mean, ball would go to Tribal, go back to Williams, go to Lenihan, to Tribal, back to Williams, back to Pears, out to Rankin Costello, out to Nyambe, back to the centre-backs again. It was doing my head in. I mean, it was so frustrating. And we're 2-0 down with 15 minutes to go, and it's either we're passing it around the back or we're just hoofing the ball up to Sam Gallagher, who, again, did nothing when he came on. Yeah, he is the tallest, he is the smallest 6'4" player I have ever seen. It's so frustrating. I just don't get how he doesn't win these headers in the air, and it's just an absolute joke. What has Sam Gallagher done this season, bar score that goal, which, like I've already mentioned in the previous streams, was from a striker's position? He keeps being played on the wing, and that's not Sam Gallagher's fault. That's a Mowbray problem. But it baffles me. If we hadn't paid $5 million for Sam Gallagher would not be getting a look in, because he's been awful since we've got him.
So, Luke, Jacobs highlighted a lack of a clinical edge there today, and a lack of urgency, I guess, in that second half in particular, as a key talking point. What's your key talking point from today?
I just want to nail in on the system, really. Swansea came with playing 5 at the back. We knew exactly what Swansea were going to do. I mean, you spoke to the chap earlier on in the week regarding Swansea, the Swansea fan. He told us to a T what was going to happen today. I just don't understand why we don't change the system, to play to our strengths. We seem to just be going in with far too predictable. Today we're crying out for. Going on what Jacob said, we're actually crying out for a Sam Gallagher. We were looking for a big presence up there to just help Armstrong out. There were times when he was quite isolated, just getting the ball, half chances. He makes something of them because that's what Armstrong does, but he's not a bully as such. He's not going to, bully those defenders. I've said it already, they were big boys, and Sam Gallagher could have done a job down the middle today, and instead, when he does finally come on, he gets put out on the wing. He's not a winger. We paid what I thought we paid money for. Was a big commanding centre forward. I've never been a big fan of Sam Gallagher. I don't think he did enough to warrant the fee in his loan spell at Rovers. Why we paid it, I don't know, but he's here now. And we need to use him to sort of his strengths. Otherwise, it's never going to be a success. We're never going to see that £5 million back. And today was a game that Sam Gallagher could have done something down the centre, but we didn't use him. And instead, we went with the predictable 4-3-3. We went with a system that we knew, was going to get quashed by this Swansea side, and inevitably we're just looking at exactly the same as what we've seen in previous games, and we've got the players to change it up a bit, and like I said before, if we'd have had maybe Harvey Elliott just sitting in behind, might have been a bit more creative, but ultimately, like I said, Sam Gallagher could have done something. Yeah.
Rovers fans, please do hit us with your comments from your key talking points today. What are things that have stood out for you? Joe, I'm going to come to you then. Your key talking point from today's game.
Yeah, I mean, I think the game was done at 2-0, really. I think, Gallagher frustrated me when he came on, but that's not the key talking point from today, in my opinion, because he comes on as a sub with however long left, and we'd already conceded the 2 goals. That game, well, I think he was on the pitch as that second one went in, but we're talking 20, 30 seconds. I think, really, the talking point has got to be defensively, because away from home, I can tolerate not scoring a goal. You go away from home and get a 0-0, we'd all be, well, we wouldn't be happy, but we'd be content with 0-0 today. I would have been. It's a point on the road. It's less about the attacking, because on a different day, Rankin Costella's header goes in and one of Armstrong's chances goes in the net. And, I'm not worried about us moving forward. I'm worried about the defence. We lost the game when they took the lead, because we know we can't come from behind and beat sides. That was when the game was done. So the big talking point has got to be defensively. I'm not particularly worried about set pieces. It's rare that we concede directly from a set piece. It's not like it's a long-term issue for us. So I'm not panicking over that. It's the defending for that second goal, really. It's too easy. I think the keeper could be a bit more commanding. I think that the fullback's got to get out a bit faster, and I think he needs help from his winger, and I think obviously the centre backs have got to be more dominant. We talked last year about Lenihan and Adarabayo, and we praised them consistently for being able to head that ball over the halfway line 20 times a game, from goal kicks, from long balls, and we just didn't win enough headers today. We got bullied up the top end of the pitch by a bloke that's not even 6 foot. And it was frustrating to watch us not be able to dominate in the air like that. I think another issue with the Tribal Holtby Evans midfield is its height. It's not robust enough. Whilst Tribal can clearly get involved and intercept a pass and block a shot, he's not a big Bradley Johnson physical. He's not rugged running Lewis Travis, and Holtby Evans and Tribal lacks bite more than anything else. And whilst we talk about how that midfield was static going forward, where was it defensively? I mean, when them balls are coming into the box, where are those midfielders in a defensive action? We talk about Evans being a defensive midfielder, but I don't recall him putting in any defensive work, So I think the problems are defensive, not necessarily the set pieces, but definitely that dominance in the air is missing in this current system.
Yeah. In terms of my talking points, Lenihan, we've already spoken about. I think that is a big turning point in the game. And, if it's 0-0 at halftime or whatever, we're possibly looking at a different game there if Lenihan's won that header. But for me, the big talking point is just that lack of plan B, that stuff that Luke's spoken about. I've been at plenty of away games, actually, where we've had no possession hardly. It's been an absolute canter. We've not registered any shots, not let alone on target, any shots whatsoever away from home. That is a significant improvement this season, that we are a possession-based side and, we look comfortable in the ball, etc. And let's be fair, when we've been good this season, we have looked really good. Those results against Derby, Wycombe, Coventry, the facts speak for themselves. However, today it is crying out for that plan B, and Swansea were very comfortable as we continue to knock it about, do those passes that Jacob said across the back line, the little flicks that Elliot's doing, Elliot coming and receiving the ball. That's what Swansea want. What they wouldn't have wanted is what Luke's saying, the ball up to Gallagher. I thought the substitution of Brereton was very strange, knowing that Armstrong's carrying that hamstring injury. I just think get him off at that point, protect him a little bit. And if you're thinking you're going to be chasing the game for that last 15 minutes, then at least you've got Brereton and Gallagher, those two big lads up top. Those are very strange sub in the circumstances. And let's face it, we ended up with Gallagher up top, who's bereft of confidence. And then you're relying on a 17-year-old and an 18-year-old to go and do a moment of magic in that 4-3-3 system. So we just lack that little bit of a plan B. That's something that the likes of Neil Warnock or even Neil Harris in this division, those types of managers who would just have that little plan B to go and win that game. Another talking point I want to come on to, Luke, is the chances for Armstrong. Do you think it could have been a different game had he taken some of those chances in the first half? The one very early on, or indeed the little chance when Freddie Woodman came rushing out to him. Could he have done better with both of those?
Yeah, I think so. I don't want to be too harsh on Armstrong, but I think you just expect more from Armstrong. He is a goal scorer. That's what he does. Similar to the Watford game, when he's one-on-one, he seems to make the wrong decision, and then when he gets an half chance, that's when he buries it, and when you least expect it, he turns it around. Maybe he didn't quite look himself, given that the early injury. He seemed sort of a yard off it for a little while in that first half and then grew into it again in the second. But ultimately, you're expecting a bit more from Adam Armstrong. He did look a bit lost at times, but he had the chances. And when he had the chances, you're expecting him to score them.
Yeah. I'm going to pick up the comments that we've had. We've got quite a few across a variance of topics here. So, Jacob, I'll come to you first for this one. It's a comment from Leap Year Man. Surely we have to adapt the tactics when missing so many first-choice players. Is that a view that you agree with? We've spoken today about Rankin Costello ending up at left-back. Could we have played a different system, for example, so that he didn't end up at left-back?
I think we definitely need to change our tactics right now. With the current amount of injuries and people out with COVID, Like you've all said, the midfield today, they're all too similar, and I totally agree with that. And I feel like playing Corey Evans in that more attacking midfield position just doesn't suit him. Lewis Holtby, when Corey Evans has been playing there, like you've mentioned as well, he's very quiet. He's not the same player. Tribal today, too many backwards passes, no one to give the ball to in midfield and have someone drive. And I wouldn't mind going back to the formation we were playing last year at this moment in time until we get players back, because right now we just can't play this formation. It just isn't working at all. We're being exposed defensively, and midfield we just look flat, and there's nothing there going forwards, and it's leaving it all to the front three. I think something more frustrating. I know you mentioned Ryan, the substitute of Ben Brereton for Sam Gallagher, but what I didn't understand at all was subbing off Adam Armstrong for Jacob Davenport when you've got Harry Chapman on the bench. We're 2-0 down and you're bringing on a defensive midfielder. It baffles me. I don't get that substitution one bit. What is Jacob Davenport going to do offering us a goal? Surely you bring on Harry Chapman, you put Gallagher in the middle, you've got Dolan on one wing, Harry Chapman on the other, and then you've got Elliott in behind. That as a front four would have been decent. Having balls being whipped into Sam Gallagher in the middle for headers, I just don't understand why he isn't even considering that when we're 2 goals down. Just a plan B, just something, just give it a go. Let's change it up a bit. But no, he puts Gallagher on the wing, has Dolan on the other wing, and Elliott in the middle. I just don't understand it. We need a plan B desperately, because like's being said, we are far too predictable. And I think the next 5 games we've got, we have to take 11, 12 points from them, because if we don't, I can't see us getting playoffs if we don't. And we really do need to go for playoffs this season. Like we were talking about the other night, Ryan, if we don't get playoffs this season, we're going to lose a lot of our big players and we're going to be in trouble next season. So the amount of players out of contract, so we need to give it a good go this season. If we don't get 11, 12 points from the next 5 games, I think Mowbray has to go.
Joe, I'm just going to come to you. Just a few comments that we've had. Alexander Haben, we need to change the system to suit the available players. And then T Mason 86, do we revert to a 4-2-3-1 system given player availability? Also prepare for Dak returning. We have been quite faithful to that 4-3-3, haven't we, this season? With those players who are unavailable at the moment, would you be looking for a little system change just whilst we get those players back, as Jacob said?
Well, see, the 4-3-3 is a 4-2-3-1, just with that advanced midfielder not so advanced. It's the only difference. So, no, I wouldn't revert to a 4-2-3-1. I think it's still a 4-3-3. It's just, I think it would be better with a double pivot and somebody pushing slightly further forward. I think once fit, I'd like to see Johnson and Tribal as a defensive pairing. And I think if they played together as defensive midfielders in front of a back four, Johnson and Tribal, I would be shocked if we didn't come away with a clean sheet. I think they are both experienced enough and the right mixture of defensive and creative. And then it's a toss-up for who plays in that Dak role. Do you put Holtby there and ask him to do more going forward, or do you bring Elliott inside? I think the theory about Elliott has to play wide has probably been debunked tonight, because he played central and left for like most of the game, which I liked. I think he looked good there. And a lot of his good play came there. So, yeah, I wouldn't really call it 4-2-3-1. I think it's a case of, instead of having 1 holder and 2 box-to-box, you would have 2 holders and 1 nice and advanced. Keep your front 3 going as it is, because I think long-term they score goals. And, yeah, defensively, I'd like to see a Johnson Tribal double pivot, personally.
Yeah. And we spoke about exactly what you've described, Joe, on the pre-match stream. The fact that we haven't got that person breaking those lines from that midfield 3. I think that is a real big thing for us at the moment. Someone like Rothwell or Bradley Dack or Harvey Elliott, I am sure, can fulfill that role, and we are missing that. And Holtby was doing that, certainly against Coventry. He did that. For whatever reason, he's not at the moment. Luke, I just want to pick up a comment here from Leap Year Man, which I have just lost. Here it is, sorry. Is it time to batten down the hatches for the next couple and regroup after the break? We are a side that 4 defeats in 5. We're not in form at the moment. So do we need to just go defensively first and foremost? Or do you think that Mowbray has unfortunately set this side up to keep the ball and attack, and that's going to be more difficult to do something like that?
I don't think that we need to change our system per se as our baseline system. I think we just need to look at the opponent a little bit more. So when we're going, to the likes of coming up QPR and Middlesbrough, they're going to be hard to break down. QPR are a little bit more attacking than Middlesbrough, so we might have to set up a bit more defensively there. But we've got to look at Middlesbrough. They're a defensive side. They don't concede a great deal of goals. We've got to look at how we can break teams like that down. To just go defensively and change our system and then go into a game, trying to change us, I don't think that solves anything. I think the problem at the moment is we play a very predictable system week in, week out. What we don't do is look at the opponent in any great detail and see how we can take the game to the opponent. For me, that is fundamentally what we need to change if we're going to pick up results, because we're playing this 4-3-3 system, and sorry, but we're not Liverpool. We can't do it week in, week out and expect to get results. We've got talented players, but have we defensively, got enough to keep goals out? Because as soon as we concede goals, that's when the whole thing goes to pot. We can't bring games back when we're conceding goals. So no, don't go defensively as such, but yes, change the system to suit the game.
And then just to pick up a couple of comments based on what you've said there, Luke. Rovers till I die 311984215. Could have 3-5-2, have Rankin Costello at left wing back and Nyambi right wing back. And then Sean Fox, seems like we need to go into damage limitation mode until we get more players back, scrap for points rather than just trying to play our normal expansive football. And I think that's what Sean said there is kind of what I was getting at with the whole Plan B stuff. It's just that scrappy, let's get a 1-0 off someone's backside or something like that. I don't see Rovers doing that at the moment. It seems like we're going to blitz a few teams 4-0 or whatever, have loads of the ball, or we're going to lose. And I just want that little bit in the middle, that ugly side. Jacob, we've got a question for you from Kieran Frost. Do you believe Danny Graham would have made an impact today instead of bringing on a defensive-minded player for Armstrong?
You only have to look at how Danny Graham's done at Sunderland this year, and that probably answers your question, to be honest. As far as I know, he hasn't had a look in really at Sunderland over Wyke and Griggs, so no, probably not. I think we could have done with bringing another forward in the transfer window. I know we're stretched for money, but I do think maybe someone on loan or maybe a free agent could have really helped as just a different option, really, seeing as Mowbray's obsessed with playing Brereton and Gallagher on the wing, which has worked with Brereton. I'll give credit to him with that, but with Gallagher, that isn't working at all. So, and he doesn't seem to want to give him a chance down the middle. So, my thinking is, if Armstrong gets injured, who is going to play in that position? Is he actually going to give Sam Gallagher a chance down the middle? Because if not, I would love to know who he ends up putting there, because I couldn't tell you right now. I wouldn't be surprised to see Sam Gallagher there. It's the obvious option, but he doesn't seem to have a go with the obvious option, does he? Because the obvious option for me tonight was to put Gallagher in the middle, like I've already said, have Chapman and Dolan on the wings and Elliott in behind him. But no, I think Danny Graham, as we saw last season, was past it and isn't performing at League One level. But on a side note, Paul Caddis did score tonight.
Who did he score for? Who's he playing for?
He's playing for Swindon Town now.
Oh, Swindon. Okay. Just on your point about who would play up top if Gallagher was injured, I do. If Armstrong was injured, I do think it would be Gallagher, Jacob. I think that Mowbray does like Brereton as that wide striker, and he is dangerous out there. And I think he would go with Gallagher up top, particularly if Bradley Dack is back as well, just to play that big man, little man. Joe, I'm going to come to you for a comment here from Daniel Woods. We've seen Ainsley Pears now for 2 games. I personally don't think he's done too bad. But do you think Kaminski would have made a difference in today's game? The second goal, do you think Pears could have done better with that one, for example?
Maybe. I think he's a young player, and I think he's probably got quite a bit to learn, and we've seen the kind of strides that David Ray has taken over his time with us and then away from us. And everybody has different opinions on young goalkeepers. Back in League One, it was David Raya, Dean Henderson, and both of them have gone on to bigger and better things since then. And it's, young goalkeepers that are rated so highly as youngsters are usually rated so for a pretty good reason. I mean, you look at Eastham in our academy setup, to be that small and still be so highly rated says that you know what you're doing. He definitely has got a bit to learn, but as Mowbray's commented on, he's a goalkeeper that is absolutely used to sitting in his own 6-yard box and playing with the ball at his feet and coming out and helping the defenders is alien to him, really. So that's a style problem. I thought he was all right. I think there was a corner where he punched it away quite commandingly, and I thought, yeah, okay. I feel much like Raya and Walton, he's probably got a mistake in him. But in terms of general shot stopping and ability, he's clearly got that and a decent second option, isn't he? I would like to see Sturgiakis still. And potentially over the last 2 games, maybe 1 or 2 less goals would have been conceded with Kaminski in net. But that's a big if. And obviously, if you take 2 goals away, 1 per game, we'd have lost 3-2 and lost 1-0. So we'd have still lost both games. So as much as I'm a fan of Kaminski, I really don't think Pears has been the reason or anywhere near the reason why we've lost 2 games in a row.
Yeah, and I agree with that, Joe. I'm much more comfortable having someone in Pears, a young goalkeeper that we can continue to develop, someone that will have a sell-on value. Whether we like it or not, we have to be in the business of selling on players at some point and moving back to that trading model. And we might get a fee for Pears in the future, who knows? And I think just a lad that's played, 20-odd championship games as our number 2 keeper fills me with a bit more reassurance than what we had last season with Luttweiler, and we've obviously got Kaminski as a permanent now. So I think Pears has done well enough. I think it's just clear that Kaminski is just a bit more of an aggressive goalkeeper, isn't he, coming off his line and things like that. So he does look different in that sense. Luke, I'm going to come to you for just a comment in response to what would happen if Adam Armstrong got injured. Kieran Kiffin has said he would play Harvey Elliott as a false 9 and Dolan on the left. If Mowbray is insistent on this 4-3-3 formation, and depending on what's going on with Bradley Dack, could you see that happening?
There's a possibility there, isn't there? I mean, you mentioned Bradley Dack. I think if Bradley Dack's back fit, he's the obvious option to go in at a false 9. Thinking back, it seems a long time ago that we ever had the delights of Bradley Dack on the pitch. So when that comes, we'll all be looking forward to it. But as we remember with Bradley, he scores a lot of goals. He creates. He brings other people into play. So in terms of when you're looking at the perfect false 9, Bradley Dack fits that bill. And fingers crossed, we're not long away from Bradley returning. So he's the one that automatically would go in for me. It's nice to see what we saw tonight with the interchanging with when Dolan came on more so, but even earlier on we saw Brereton and Harvey Elliott swapping, Armstrong going out wide. So I think if we do play with a false 9, it gives us a little bit more fluidity in that respect. So it'd be nice to see somebody fall into a false 9, but I think however we play it, we've got the option to be fluid because Brereton can play down the middle, and as can Armstrong as well. We've got players to do that. So absolutely, a false nine's an option, and hopefully Ivy can fill in there as and when.
Yeah. So we'll just do a little nod towards the next two games now. We've got the league table after today's game. Rovers down in 14th now, 3 wins, 1 draw, and 5 losses. And of course, our form not great at the moment with 4 defeats in 5. Jacob, we've got the international break after our 2 games, Middlesbrough at home and QPR at home. Is it 6 points now that we really need from those 2 games to really try and get some positivity back into the fan base and into the squad before that international break?
Obviously, I would love 2 wins in the next 2 games. I feel like we need those 2 wins, but I can't see us getting 2 wins, especially not at home. We've looked really disappointing at home this season, and we haven't looked at all like we're going to beat a team at home other than Wickham. And I can see us going into that international break like disappointed, but that international break is coming at a good time for us, because after that international break, I'm hoping we'll have the likes of Rothwell, Johnson, even Amari Bell, Douglas. We'll have all those players back. Bradley Dack would then be a week or 2 away from being back in the squad, and hopefully that'll change our luck. And I think that is what we need right now. I think, like we've said, we're playing 2 similar players in midfield, and it's just not working at all. We're playing players who don't fit the system, who don't benefit each other, and like I said, as much as I would love to get the next 2 wins and go into the international break, and it'd be really positive going into that international break with 2 wins, and we'd be saying, "Oh, we're back in for the playoffs once we have all these players back." I can't see it happening. I think it's going to have to be we get these players back after international break, and we're going to have to put a good run together. Because if we don't get a run together after this international break, I just can't see the playoffs coming our way at all. Like I've said, we need to get 11, 12 points out of these 5 games, the next 5 games. And if we can't, questions have to be asked from the manager, because he's been given the funds this year. This is the strongest squad we've had since we've been relegated, in my opinion. And it's just not working, is it? We've beat 3 poor sides convincingly, albeit, but like I've mentioned before, anyone who we're coming up against who's average or above average, we're losing to, or we're getting a scrappy draw against 10 men Cardiff. It's just not good enough.
And Joe, when I look at that table, Rovers, very much a team of extremes at the moment. It's just gone off my screen now, but got the most goals in the division with 18 goals. But then we've lost 5 games, which is one of the worst. Within that top 17 on the table, conceded the most in that top 17 group. So a real team of extremes at that present time. I was looking at Middlesbrough there, 9 games, 9 goals scored and 5 conceded. That's Neil Warnock all over, isn't it? Really tight games and in the top 6. It's going to be more of the same at Ewood Park on Tuesday night, isn't it, against Middlesbrough?
Yeah, I mean, anyone who thinks that Tuesday's this big winnable game is being really hopeful and not realistic. Remember Cardiff, remember Forest. That's what we're walking into on Tuesday at Ewood. It's Neil Warnock. If you had a manager, if you could pluck a group of managers to beat a Blackburn side together to manage a team, you'd probably have Neil Warnock with Sean Dyche as his assistant, and you would sit a 5-man block behind a 4-man midfield and 1 lone striker, and you'd walk away with a 1-0 or a 0-0. That's what you'd do. Tuesday, I'm not going to be negative, but I really don't see us winning on Tuesday. QPR I'm a bit more hopeful about. I think they shipped 3 goals really quickly against a Barnsley side that I don't think will maintain the levels that they've started with. So, Yeah, I don't know. I don't think there's any need to panic. I don't really think that we've spent that much money this year. I think we've been quite conservative with our spend. If you think 2018-19, 7 million on Ben Brereton. Last season in the summer, 6 million or 5 million on Sam Gallagher. We didn't do that this year. And I think as soon as I saw, we're looking in the free agents market and we're looking at the loan market, and I don't think we've gone, big. And like Kieran says here, games you should win if you're looking at the playoffs. But, are we looking at the playoffs? I think you're looking at the playoffs if you're hopeful and if you're being really positive and if you're being optimistic. But I think a realist says that we've not got one of the top 6 sides in the division. I agree that on paper, it's probably one of the best teams we've had since Premier League relegation, but it's only one of the best teams that we've had since then if we actually win games, because fancy football means nothing. So, that's how I feel about it. Not being too negative, but it's about realism. I think if you're expecting us to finish in the top 6, especially now, as many games as we are into the season, then you're probably being a little bit naive with an expectation, that is.
Sure. And Luke, as our debutant, I am going to give you the final word if I can. So Rovers fans, you've got about a minute or so to get your comments in before we wrap the live stream up. Luke, we are only 9 games into the season. If I reflect back on Rovers in the League One season, I think we were 11th at the end of October and then went on a run. Derby last season came from nowhere. I've looked at previous league tables where teams have just risen up and timed their runs properly. Do you share the view that there's no need to panic at this stage? Things can click. We've got some players coming back. And do you think Rovers are just going to be pretty much getting these 2 games out the way, see what the lockdown restrictions also bring, and then see where we're at after that international break?
Yeah, don't panic just yet. We've got these 2 games. I'm with you on this. Middlesbrough's a tough game, and QPR have got goals in them as well. So both of them games are going to be tough games. Every game in this division is a tough game. I think we just take for granted we're Blackburn Rovers, and we're God-given. We're a God-given Premier League side. We're not. We're a Championship side, and these Championship sides are all good sides. We have what's worrying for me is that we've lost 4 of our last 5 now. I think. I never thought I'd say this as a Blackburn Rovers fan, but I'd love to see us draw again. In the past, we've drawn way too many games and we couldn't turn them into wins. Now we can't turn losses into draws, so we need to almost go that other way and just start picking up some points again, regain some confidence. And I'll echo what Jacob said. The international break will probably do us a world of good. We were doing overwhelmingly well, and we were almost, we'd almost all accepted that we were going to win the league. Pre-international break, Rovers fans were going wild everywhere. It's like, oh yes, this is great, but in reality, that international break hasn't done us much good. So hopefully, this one will, come at the right time and do us a bit better.
Yeah, and that's where I'm at as well, Luke. I think in 3 or 4 weeks' time, you've got players who aren't self-isolating, possibly a couple more back, and that side is just looking a bit more settled, a bit more balanced. You're not playing Joe Rankin-Costello left back. You're playing him in a position where he's a square peg in a square hole. So I think that international break is going to do us the world of good, and let's see if we can get a good points haul. 4 points would be great out of those Middlesbrough and QPR games just to really see us through. We will end the live stream there then, Rovers fans. Thank you once again for joining us post-match. Disappointing. Never really looked like Rovers were going to get back into that game. More food for thought, but certainly no reason to panic at this stage. And let's see what the 2 home games can bring. We, of course, will be available with On the Other Side, the 1875 podcast, lots of stat stuff from Joe and Andy, and we will do the pre- and post-match live streams before that Middlesbrough game on Tuesday as well. Luke, thanks ever so much for joining us for your debut.
Yeah, pleasure to be involved. So hopefully it's gone all right, guys, and I hope everyone's enjoyed watching it.
Yeah, I have. Jacob, thanks for joining us again, mate.
No worries.
Thanks, Jacob. And Joe, thanks ever so much.
No problem, mate. Thanks very much for hosting, Ryan. You've been Perfect as per usual. Well done, mate.
Fantastic as always, Ryan.
I'm not usually described as perfect, so if I can shine for an hour a week, then that's good, isn't it? So, Rovers fans, please give us a follow on Twitter, Rovers_chat on Twitter. Subscribe to our YouTube channel, Rovers Chat, and of course, please check out those guys at 6yardsout.com. But for now, have a good Halloween night and stay safe, everyone.
The Rovers Chat YouTube channel is proudly sponsored by 6yardsout.com. They've got retro football from every era with mugs, phone cases and much more. They also have plenty of Rovers goods including apparel with the famous 94-95 season and this season's kit. Check them out using the link in the description below.